Hello, good morning. It is morning tea with kayteezee, bringing back an old favorite, which has actually been happening elsewhere on the internet this whole time. But for some reason, humans at Facebook only believe in Facebook. So let me get this going and say hello. We're just having some morning tea. I have been up for hours. But I had to hang out with my kitty cats for a while, as that was just more fun. And so now I'm getting my these other guys set up. Morning tea. And then we will chat and it'll be awesome. And games will be played and things will happen and ideas will happen. And oh my goodness me. I actually wanted to bring out some oracle cards today too. Morning tea and oracle. Oracle cards, I have so many of them. We can contemplate all kinds of things. Okay, good morning. What do I have? What do I have? What is it? Tell me the answers. Okay. I was very excited about the weather today, and then I started to move, and he had other ideas, because just because it's nice out doesn't mean I should have an easy day having a body. No, no. What is this one? It says the Knight of Swords. What is the Knight of Swords, you ask? I'm not sure. My way of reading oracles is I make my own meaning out of them. Look at that. It looks like Knight of Swords looks like a helicopter. Or a dragonfly, like a dragonfly. So my name is Katie. I am a lady sometimes. Sometimes this person looks very sad. So I'm pulling a couple oracle cards till folks get it here. And I think on some of these streaming, it's all just streams. But on TikTok, we get to interact, don't we? Yay! Let's hope TikTok doesn't go away. Relational, Deb Dana. Good morning, Mick. Oh my gosh, carpet. I love it. How are you, Evan? I am having tea this morning and just pulling some random cards. And I thought we would chit chat about, I'm not even sure. Do I have children? I have tons of children, art babies. Stacy's here. Morning tea with kayteezee. Streaming. Oh, this is so cool. Pull you one. It's your anniversary. Okay, you're getting animal card, I think. I'm okay. Oh, you got two. Okay, the first one you got is a squirrel, which I interpret as being able, like you're tend to, right? Also shiny, but look, oh, you got the one that could be anything, which is the best one. Happy anniversary. I hope you don't have a bad day. I hope you have a wonderful day and hope you have all the sexy fun time or not that you desire. Both of you together, consensually, in a way that works. This is just so we're clear on what Katie's working with the oracles. This is how I believe oracles should occur. If it's going to just be an oracle, then I want as much oracle in my deck as I can have. So I have, these are the Aleister Crowley. This is the only set that's ever worked for me. This is the Tower. I know that a lot of folks read the tarot and they know all the signs and they do all the things, and that's wonderful. I like looking at the art. Mr. Crowley, his magic makes me so sick. So sick. but the art on these cards is to my soul, to my soul. Virtue. Virtue is a 6. Uh-oh. Darla's here. Darla. Hi. What would you like? She says, good morning. So anyway, let's have a conversation about, I am turning Shentegrity into like a journal type thing so that it can be both self-guided and fun and useful, and you don't have to worry about getting it all right. And look at that, it's a prairie dog, which to my mind, Kitty, oh, man, I am offended. Get off. She just went to my computer like she could just do anything to my little computer. Hold on. Oh, Darla, who said that you can just exist in space time the way you want to exist? I believe I am in charge of your existence, not you. All right, I have blocked her. Do I have anything to eat? I have food coming. Yes, I have something to eat. Don't mind me, I'm having leftover burritos, which is like the perfect breakfast food. I just don't have anything to eat it with. And that is because why should I keep any kind of tableware? I don't have tableware and I never know where my cups and glasses are. So this is from one of my favorite little Mexican places that's probably not a little Mexican place. It's probably like a chain, but who cares? It's real food, but I like Ecuadorian the most. Ecuadorian food is my favorite. Good morning. We're having morning tea. Norman, get off there. Gallon of milk. Whoa. My dad used to drink milk. Okay, so the thing of it is, we have all these words that we're told about nervous system regulation and stress and trauma, blah, 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 blah. And I believe we all get stuck on the words so much that we forget what we're here for, which is the soft, mushy bit. And I don't like that. And also, if I had to have a PhD in something in order to speak to trauma, then how did my 3rd grade science teacher how come she was so good? How come Mr. Rogers makes me feel so good? He didn't have a certificate of trauma. This is tea. We've established this. I need somebody to ask me some questions so I can pretend like I'm smart. What's this one? The Prince of Discs. Looks like a pain to drink out of. It is, but my cats can't knock it over. They enjoy all liquids. I drink less water with them now. I'm also very bad at maintaining like ownership of reusable. This is my favorite, the devil, because the devil kind of looks like a peen. Doesn't the devil look like a peen? The peen intervenes. Say it with me. The peen intervenes. We all have a little peen in us. All have a little peen. Old pasta and salsa jars. Yes. Sometimes the salsa stays tasting like salsa to me. But that might be because I don't have a dishwasher. I have to wash everything by hand here. Here's death. Something we all have in our lives at some point. So did you see that monkeypox in my state in Pennsylvania, we have some of the most monkeypox in the country. Yep. It is spread through respiratory droplets and contact. So I'm just suggesting that you contemplate that when you leave the house. Yeah. The monkeypox. So the thing of it is, okay, mpox, bird flu, swine flu, these are all like cross species moments. And since COVID occurred, we seem to be having more of them, don't we? I think that's worth noting, truly, because there's something to that. This is the Ace of Pentacles. There's your Star Bridge. So there's a character on the I Ching too. Let me get a color copy for you. This is the chart from Chinese medicine. This character here, the child on the Star Bridge, that is our thymus gland, for sure. Absolutely, for sure, for sure. The thymus gland exists between your sternum and your pericardium, which if you've spoken with me at all in the last month or so, I'm very much about the pericardium especially. Immune systems are long fighting, bringing out latent disease. Our immune systems are destroyed from multiple COVID infections. It's nothing, it's genuine. By humans deciding that the only time they're going to believe the American government is when it's convenient. And I say that somewhat jokingly, but also like, this is 100% the result of very bad public health. Bad public health. The CDC has said that your child can go to school with lice. That is early industrial revolution level stuff. That is cholera. That is like, lice are the only thing that I have friends who work in emergency departments. Lice terrify them. They'll do anything. They won't do lice. That could be a joke, but also every day your kids go to school, you cry. Because I mean, I can't imagine it. I don't have children, but you have the violence and then everything else. So I know that we have a million cases of COVID right now, and I'm just telling you so you have information. At this point, anybody who has decided that becoming disabled is an acceptable risk, you have at it. You have at it. I can tell you, it's not worth it. None of you can avoid it. I can't even get medical care now. Exactly. You lose out on earning every day your kid has to stay home. And we can't have that. Cannot have that. Also, your kid isn't guaranteed, like none of us has health care. A lot of the rhetoric around health has this assumed access, right? Like, oh, just change your diet. How many people live in food deserts? How many folks just don't have the resources? No work, no school, just living. So gonna bang on some drums. I got my proper. I play these very chaotic. I kind of see myself like a Dr. Seuss with these. Just love how they sound. I prefer the metal. there's a, if you're here with the bowls and right in this corner, they go. It's almost like a helicopter effect with a. I think it's really cool. One of the problems I have with these is they're so hypnotic, I become hypnotized, and then I'm like, oh, that's right, I'm playing. But I think we discussed you guys being with me while I practice, because I used to be a real musician. And then I became a non-musician. And then I became a musician again. And then my body changed because I had cancer and a stroke and COVID and all that stuff. Stroke was first. Everybody forgets my stroke, everyone who knows me. It's amazing what humans are expected to resolve, just expected, right? Baby's walking, she's talking, can't be disabled. I'm so smart. I'm so capable. I am still disabled. My goodness me. My goodness me. So, yeah, so we're having some morning tea and we're discussing whatever comes up. Before I pretend like I'm gonna get, I actually have to. Autism assessment in November. I hope that goes well for you. I haven't, this is late diagnosed, late realized autistic reality. It is a game changer, life changer. I don't know many people for whom it's like oh, good, this will be easy. Though for everybody I know who has done the process, and I started unmasking my autism 5 years ago at 50. I was like, oh, I bet I'm autistic. Maybe I should see what happens. Turns out my brain works a whole different way than I thought it did. Works very taxonomy based is how I understand it. Taxonomy, ontology, and tensegrity. Ontology, the girls are understudied because they're high masking. The boys are only studied if they're white, otherwise they're schizophrenic. And if you're a grown-up, they might label you schizophrenic anyway, which I was recently labeled at a psych ward. So now I don't even know how I get that off my record. I had to fire, everybody left in my care team. So I fired my psychiatrist this week. She seems to think that high control psych wards that put people in isolation for up to 15 hours at a time is acceptable therapy for anybody, much less me. Excuse you? Pardon me? Yeah, it was a very strange, I was not traumatized by it because I did absolutely need to be assessed. I was awake for 3 days with an awareness that I have a memory gap, a 2-year memory gap, but also like, oh my gosh, what if I have cancer in my brain? And they wouldn't even look at me for a ear infection for a week. How am I supposed to get cancer care in a situation like that? They kept me in an isolation room, monitored by police officers, armed cops, 24/7 for 3 days, eating crackers. I remember 2 turkey sandwiches, no shower, no nothing. Drug. I mean, they just like, it was some of the best sleep I've ever had, but I also slept for 3 days. Then that turned into me being schizophrenic and self-harm. That wouldn't make anybody. No, it doesn't. it's an attunement of mind. So this takes us back to the only law in Taoism, the law is the Tao that can be named is not the Tao. And it guides us away from worship of the written word in a very particular, specific way, but it also guides us to contemplating what is being shown to me rather than, oh, I'm just going to accept what I see. So the what is being shown to me, I'm streaming on a couple different platforms right now. Anybody seeing me through Zoom, I'm seeing myself like I would look in a mirror, but it's being displayed to the end viewer, just like you were watching a TV. Those of you who are seeing me on a front-facing camera, TikTok specifically, you're not getting that correction. So you're seeing me just like if we were in a mirror. And tapped into strange, I feel like this is relevant to the autistic experience, but just in general, it's relevant. When it's a cognitive distortion is the term for it. And propagandists rely on distortions, on cognitive distortions to guide minds and to get you like, oh yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah. It's terrible. It's insidious. I have graduate degree level training in it from Carnegie Mellon. I was studying post-war Britain and America, specifically the rise of the prison industrial complex and how the prison industrial complex creates its own kind of boxed surveillance, whether or not you're like in the prison industrial reality. But as it relates to the cognitive distortion of just looking at a screen, I believe it's always a good practice to assume anything I'm looking at from a screen. I just assume there's a distortion somewhere, either in data, in like the rhetoric might be distorted because I mean, I have a point of view, everybody has a point of view, all marketing occurs through distortions, but very much just genuinely anything that I see that has a whole other human on it, unless I know how they're oriented. So you could tell how you're oriented to me if you see me with writing. So when you see the Nijing 2, if you're not reading it correctly, you know I'm mirrored. If you're reading it correctly, you know I'm not mirrored. From a sensory motor cortex perspective, this is for all my COVID humans. I am one of us. But very much anybody receiving the functional diagnoses, functional disorder diagnoses, the right and left eye, when information comes in, it doesn't come in one-to-one, it comes in and then it's flipped and it's shown back to us. I call it, it's the corona of the brain. It's like the movie screen. It's the front and back half, which this model doesn't even show me. Like you only see it in MRIs, really. This model gives you the right brain, left brain reality. But from a front half, back half, you see how in the middle of the brain, there's all this stuff going on. That's your cerebellum, your medulla oblongata, the brain stem. So this is voluntary and involuntary movement. But when the information comes in, it's coming in to through our sense organs, and then it gets flipped. If you're looking at a distortion, if you're looking at me mirrored, it's going to flip inaccurate. Inaccurate, not bad, not malice, but inaccurate. But we get tuned to the inaccuracy. And then we make decisions truly based on what we're seeing. I do it too. Like it's to be aware. But when you go forward to the Tao that can be named is not the Tao, that's just asking me to get my brain oriented literally. to whatever information is coming in. So it has as much of a chance as being displayed accurately. Totally, it's an accurate model of everybody's brain, as much as it can be for $50. But this is where we get the whole eye of Horus, do you see? So this is the, oh, you know what I can do? I can show you more. Hold on. Comes apart. So temporal lobe. She only has half, she had a hemispherectomy. Hemispherectomy is a big deal. That's a really big deal. How is she doing? Where rhetoric, intent, and emotion is difficult but important these days, it is very much. So here's the top down. Top down. Bottom up, from the brain stem up. And do you see how it has a treating brain cell damage from COVID? Can I please have some? I have brain damage from COVID. I have brain damage from chemotherapy. I have brain damage from trauma. I don't know the specific treatment. Like I can't make a, I can't have an opinion on that. Let's see if I can show you. My cats are being cute. But the chemo for sure, it does. And it also, chemo changes your tissues. So I had much less of this going on before chemo. My weight has filled out a bit as my lymph continues. I lost 21 lymph nodes in the dissection. If I didn't have lymphedema, my cancer would be so done. It would be done and gone. But it's not, because my lymph, and your lymph, by the way, that's where our immunity resides. NAC supplements, I used to take adrafinil, anacertium. There was another one with an N, a nootropic, just so folks know, those are smart drugs. And they are chemicals that make the brain more brain. I do believe that proper receiving of information and relaying of information, especially as it relates to brain health and doctors, is a really important thing. And that means doctors, please stop looking at humans like you're cutting us open on a table. We are whole ass humans. This is why I say whole ass human, sense of bum. Because if I have my sense of bum and you have your sense of bum, now our brains are like this. If you have your sense of bum, I might be like this to you. So no, no. Little brain on the shoulder. Increased sympathetic, synaptic, and activity between the two cortices and the post-central succulus. Oh, what is a post-central succulus? And why don't I know that phrase? Hold on. Post-central succulus, that is a Chad GPT question, but we go to linguistics now. What is a post-central brain? I first learned about nootropics when I was hanging out with this guy named Guy. Actually, he was the caregiver for a Tibetan Lama. The post-central succulus is a groove located on the surface of the brain, lies just behind the central succulus, which is a prominent structure that separates the frontal from the parietal lobe. Okay, hold on. Let's get some frontal and frontal pie. Oh. So the thing is, I got it right. Frontal and parietal. I got it right, friends. I'm actually learning the brain. So I have mapped the brain functionally. by doing neurocartography, Katie's version, which is using the Nijing 2, this chart from Chinese medicine, as a fractal, which is what it is, because it charts the corpus callosum. The corpus callosum is the bundle of nerves in the brain that does this. Okay, but there's another bundle of nerves. It's called the pons. And it's down there with our brain stem. And so we have brain stem, pons, medulla oblongata, and the pons is like, you remember in the, yes, anything spiral. So, hello, let me show you your ear. But the pons is like a bra. In the Titanic, when she's like, and she's standing on the bow of the boat like that, that's the pons. And that has other cross going on. So there's the cross when it comes in, then there's the this, then there's the that, then there's the this. Yes. So also in the ear, my new friend. This is how I healed my stroke, by the way. Good morning, feral introvert. Also in the ear it's a maze. It's I see it most often translated as a maze. And then here's the spiral in the ear. We call it the 12-storied pagoda in TCM. And this is the nerve. This is your hearing nerve, one nerve. And look at all this fun. Look at what's happening. What? Children, why are you doing this to me? My cats. So a sound comes in, okay? I'm making this up, but honestly, most brain humans are, because we don't have functional mapping of the brain, okay? It's everybody's trying to make the brain be one thing. We don't have functional mapping. What am I defining is the squaring of mass, which also creates, that's math. Excuse me. I don't do math. Can I tell you that I reverse engineered the golden elixir, which is the Taoist alchemical birth, the golden flower that Carl Jung wrote about, the secret of the golden flower. I actually experienced it for real, quite by accident, by being a good student, and not knowing that I've been practicing oblivion yoga my whole life. It's a very, very perfectly Taoist experience, but I got here by, please, I want to know what the minuscule mapping of the brain is, because my model is based on reweighing big data in favor of human, so that when we're being fed information, I was just speaking to that experience of distortion, it distorts. So our ears do this. I don't have it here yet. I have a model. There's a ventral lateral horn situation in the brain that governs and creates and manages the flow of cerebral spinal fluid. Cerebral spinal fluid, which, by the way, there's a whole lymphatic situation in the brain called the glymphatic system. There is lymph in the ear. There are 5 sense organs in the ear. And look at this. The pineal gland, I have a rendering of mine. Can we be friends? You know more than I do, especially with the functional mapping of the brain. That's incredible, because when I see renderings of deep learning of neural net, I don't even think that they're correct. And when I look at the way that neural nets are sandwiched, that looks a little bit better, the way that those images are shown. But the Nijing 2, honestly, check out the Nijing 2, because in the Nijing 2 here's the pineal gland right here. It's called the sun. You made a whole album based on sections of the brain? What was it called? We should listen to that. Third eye, of course. So the third eye of Taoism is, ma'am, don't you yell at me. That's my little kitty cat, the autonomous front. Autonomous front. Autonomous front. It's a third eye. It's a third eye. I'm singing some Who for us. Here, let's look up autonomous front. Autonomous front. I might not be signed into search Apple Music. Yeah, obviously. Child. Kitty. Anyway, so the brain, so there are, when I did when I was reverse engineering my alchemical birth, let me show you a picture of it. Of course, I rendered it. You too could own a piece of my birth. I think prints start at $40. I made it very inexpensive because it's really a meditation on colonization and the process of deconstructing thought and everything. Like my singing bowls. Do you see there's your belly button? This is the seat of self, the seat of soma. It was such an amazing feeling. I felt the bagua come online in my body. No, I had a computer do this. This is based on the geometry that I saw of my pineal gland, which I might actually have a copy that I can show you. But all of these renderings are based on a rendering of that geometry. And that geometry, when it turned on, was very, very much like a pyramid. Let's see. I just went through all this stuff last night so that I could have it to hand, and then I put it all away, because why would I finish something? I would never finish something, please. Then it would be done. Then what would I do? My issues with completion. I can show you the self-portraits I made. So my new friend, do you know about, oh, so anyway, I had a computer do that. I use machine learning liberally. Ma'am? Hi, you're so pretty. Do I place my deity on a certain direction? Sometimes, yes. So that's the Queen Mother of the West behind me. And she balances 100% of trauma rhetoric, all of it. She also balanced all of the Huns. And I think she was also in the Tang dynasty. She spans 2 dynasties. She's my mother and me. But she does have my back. She has all of our backs though. So what she did, the women, here's the deal, okay? I'm pretty sure. So I'm very excited to know something and share something. Stop being so independent, Kitty. Having a mind of your own. Being an autonomous sovereign being. I was first interacted, so yeah, I was introduced to, I knew about Taoism from the time I was a kid, because my mother put the Tao Te Ching in front of me when I was like 13. My parents were both gay. We're all artists, musicians in the family. My dad was a professor at CMU. I grew up in the weird art house, but it was classical, darling. So it was like the weird art house that had chamber music on a Sunday afternoon. And with this brain and intellect, my mother was like, let's just keep this one confused. So she started asking me questions like, is the piano a percussion instrument or a string instrument? And I said, it's one of the 3 instruments downstairs, because we had 3 grand pianos growing up. My parents, I mean, like music family. And but also, is it? So there's my mother introducing me to particles and waves from the time I'm a child. And how, like, well, can we know for sure? Because you strike the things and then I can, so how cool is that? So I end up in this class at 18, my last semester of undergrad. Okay, maybe I was 19 or 20. And it was a history of Asian art, and all art history is very wonderful and easy to take because you just read art like text. And I grew up with art, and my mother was a art historian my whole life. She was still into Europe at the time. I was like, this will be easy. And this woman puts the 10 Oxford pictures in front of me and says, this is enlightenment. And I was like, excuse me? This is a man with a cow. What does that have to do with it? I mean, it just like broke my head. And I came home that day and my mother said, how was class? And I said, oh my gosh, you really like this teacher. She's tough. And then my mother ended up getting her PhD in Asian art history. So I have been in and I forgot that my mentor died the same year my mother and father died. My academic mentor, Linda, who introduced me to Tibetan death culture and like death cults and stuff. So that was weird. And then I have a very strange karma when it comes to teachers, tapped into strange. I have the blue light special above my head. I mean, when I'm telling you, when I birth engineered my own Taoist alchemical birth, in order to do it without being appropriating of yoga, because it all came from China, I had to go to flippin' Einstein. And I was like, I'll just put Einstein here because that's gravity. Asian art is the best. Have I seen the Terracotta Army? Yes. Have I seen them in person? No. Terracotta Army is an army of clay statues. China is like, so I'm in texts that predate acupuncture, and acupuncture predates Christianity, but man, you are too cute. Do you want to say hi to the internet? This is Darla. Einstein was a putz. Listen, I don't read Einstein because I don't need to. Like, I don't read black holes and baby universes. I don't need to. The thing I love about physics, theoretical physics in particular, is theoretical physics is ontology. It's asking about the nature of a thing. Like affective neuroscience is asking about the nature, but not psychiatry, not cognitive behavior therapy. The attachment of like idea, power, behavior, and state is too much. Man. And when Taoism began, it began as a political response to Confucianism, specifically to the experience of high control governing, but also very much to the resources you would have to send your child to, well, I would say Tao is quantum, because my understanding of quantum physics is 100% based on, I have solved the 3-body problem in my body. That's what the golden elixir is. Ma'am, listen, you are too cute. I'm trying to sound really smart. Let me go pay attention to my kitty cat. Let's have some water. Come here. There you go. So the golden elixir, as near as I can tell, any life that I may have gained by being such a good student of Tao and not doing invasive Chinese medicine and working to stay within my scope of practice, like I know as much as medical doctors in some regards. I am not a doctor. I know as much as acupuncture in some regards. I don't do acupuncture. So I'm bringing forward, I would love it if you would join. The being seen is just to acknowledge that you exist, but ShentegriTEA is Wu Wei. So biotensegrity is the architecture of our living tissue, which is a tensegrity structure. Tensegrity is architectural integrity. Shentegrity is Wu Wei, or homeoresis. So as it so happens, Taoist alchemical birth is negentropy in the body, which I did not know was a thing, but in the Taoist alchemy, it says we run water, we run energy up the spine. And water falls down. So one of the things that we're doing with the alchemy, when we do the water wheel, so you breathe in. I have to record this stuff. I know I do. Oh, you're welcome. Please, please. I want to know everything that you do. And I want you to have access to anything I think I know, because you understand bigger than I do. I'm so happy that we interfaced today. The water wheel. So we draw energy up the back. Isn't Jodorowsky's Holy Mountain the one where he assaults a woman? I have Jodorowsky's Dune. He's a horrible man. Okay, I'll watch it. Alejandro Jodorowsky as a surrealist is, wow. His plans for his version of Dune. Oh my gosh. Like what the, oh, and then of course I have a Giger tattoo. Like Giger and I are, we are tapped into the same. He's just coming through shadow and I'm coming through dark, and they're different. Darkness is the absence of light. Shadow is blocking light. But I gotta tell you, my Saturday evening alternative activity self resonates with the Giger. Mm-hmm. But the Katie moving through cancer, and Giger is like, oh my gosh, oh my gosh. My mother was very into Nordic slasher mysteries. She was a strange human, but she was my mother. So I am her child. But the three body problems. So Taoism is a set of three body problems. Taoist alchemy is three body problems. And the main vessel for the alchemy is our own body, not a thing that we're doing. I have a big data model I would love to talk with you about. Already people have threatened to have me institutionalized and wish me more incest. It's so good. So good. I'm going to take a picture of you. Let's be friends. The big data model that I have is based on the concept of labor and delivery, which is illustrated in the Jung 2 here. And you see how close it is located to the seat of self in the soma. This is the first generation or the first ancestry of Chinese medicine. Let me get it out of this so it's less shiny. It's the first ancestry. And so this is the patrilineal. This is our genetic code, but this is also all maternal stress. So as a metaphor for epigenetics, this is genetics, this is epigenetics, this is the matrilineal line. I wanted a 3-day evaluation and they gave me 10 days in a forensic psych ward. And the man who runs the ward uses the same politics that I do. I used coloring pages to fully transform the experience, the lived experience of stress and chaos on the ward. 3-day evaluation is a 72-hour journey that you take into a psych ward. Genuinely tapped into strange. Are you the one doing your autism assessment? Don't ask about psych wards if you're doing autism assessments. Like, I have learned some things. I'm just saying that based on my experience. The more I have been honest with my psychiatrist about autism, the more she's perceiving schizophrenia, which is so strange because, and this speaks to the cognitive distortion. She's primarily online. And I first met with her, you stayed out of the hospital when you were getting visions. So there are phenomena that can be co-occurring that are like spiritual and not, and genuine concern. And I am not qualified to say what those are, other than to say that based on the reporting that I've had from clients, because I've been with dual diagnosed adults and adults with various support needs my whole life. I just have had my own needs the last 6 years. We're pivoting back to me being able to provide a service. So like tap into strange, one of the things that I want to have for folks is for you to be able to go to a place and curate your own experience, but also so that you know that these papers go with this subject. This paper goes with this topic. Upset with your psych doctor. I am on bupropion, and so I started taking Lamictal. I think I've been having the cardiac responses to Lamictal also, but I went off of that because they took me off of everything. They took me off my medication for my thyroid. They took me off the sertraline, which is like that's just the first thing that you do with PTSD. Sertraline works for me. They took me off all this stuff, and my psych issues have become increasingly challenging as I have had to make money in the world and exist as a COVID cautious human without brain damage or as much brain damage. I am not all natural. And I am not all natural because I have had 6 months of chemotherapy and 30 rounds of radiation, and I'm in it. I'm in the system. I'm in it. I'm just like, give me whatever works. Listen, we're not doing that. The Vyvanse is on. It's working. But I did fire my first oncologist because she was not even willing to contemplate ashwagandha as part of my regimen that I did during chemo. I was also seeing a licensed herbalist, or as licensed as you can get. It's like one of the top designation. My own acupuncturist wasn't giving me herbs during my chemotherapy. And this first doctor was like, we don't do that. It is a lot to juggle. That's why we're making Katie money. Ma'am, what do you want? Do you want some shrimps? She has like the eyes. I can tell how bad my pain is based on how bothersome she is. But for the fighting, I have been fighting for my brain. Alternative medicine is shunned because it can't be codified. That's all. If it could be measured, codified, and put into practice, it would be. But the medical model doesn't have room for nuance. It doesn't have room for uncertainty. And as more and more people experience disability due to COVID specifically. Yeah, what? What would you like? Do you want some enrichment? Okay, I don't know what that means. What's this? Oh, what's this? Have a wonderful day. I hope I see you again. But yeah, so my first oncologist was just not into anything like that. And then I fired her. And now I like my life, it's just truly like, let's just get me. I have to figure out what kind of OnlyFans I want to be. And I don't want to do an OnlyFans. I just want to teach about sexuality and stuff, but I need to have you captive to do that. In that coming in and out like a drop-in kind of a class when genuinely when working with life force energy is not ideal. Better would be for you to have a way to come into the thing, find out what it's going to be, and then say yes or no. But in order for me to do that without being an asshole, you need to have free and unfettered access to enough that you can decide. And so what I've been doing is for years, I've just been like, what am I about? What am I actually about? Because I don't know about you. I'm always curious. And in such a good way, because when I was healing my, oh, she's hungry. I am so sorry, darling. You are out 3 kibbles and bits. How did that happen? Right, we're going to take a look at the red book. Yeah, that's great. And we're going to take a look at Taoism and the arts in China. But the 3-body problem of Taoism is Jing, Qi, and Shen. They're the 3 treasures. Let me get examples of them. I'm just going to make them up. Jing, Qi, and Shen here. Oh, here. Here's Jing. Here's Qi, it's a dragon, and Shen. So I just made it up. But the 3 treasures, they're translated so many different ways. They're translated as Jing, Qi, and Shen literally in our body. Jing, think just Jing. Young Jing, down in the hollow. It is the finite resource of life that we're born with. And this is why the Taoist alchemical birth is, now I understand it as a little bit of an immune reset, in that success in the inner alchemy, it's called Neidan. That's the practice I'm in. Success is you live longer. You don't turn into a gorgeous whatever. You become old. You get to age. And we do that by focusing, centering, feeling into, connecting onto the surface. This is, I introduced sense of Bum. This is my big gift to the world, but it gets all of the Chinese, even the Vedic, the medicine, it gets us all together so that whoever's in the situation here, Qi is the social and the biopsychosocial, and this is where we can make more or do things and change. This is the child's line. So Shen is the head, it's the spirit, it's the idea of. So Jing and Shen are nature, Qi is nurture. And this is just, again, we're not going outside right now. She really wants, she's trying to break down the neighbor's door. These are fire doors. They're heavy fire doors. It is a secure building. You're not getting it. But the Qi is where we can affect change. So inner alchemy is primarily paying attention to Shen and Jing, in that Jing is what we have. It's what we need to be most aware of. Jing. If you go to ShentegriTEA.com, SHEN, Shentegrity, TEGRITY, there are free resources there. I'm going to upload a couple more today. I might have to completely do the membership though, not on Shentegrity, because it's not letting me take money. So we'll have to figure out what's up with Squarespace. But Jing, Qi, we all have heard Qi, prana, energy, life force. Qi is like, that's where we experience everything. So Qi is also what is being observed. When folks, Patreon is, yeah, I can do it through Squarespace also. I don't like the navigation in Patreon. And I don't know what content limitations there are. I already know with Squarespace, I don't need to be as concerned with that. But monitoring by empire is the primary concern. And so, yeah, but I just have to do it. Okay. I just haven't done it. Man, what? What do you want? What's this one? She wants to play. So the chi factor is, it's where folks, I believe, when you hear something like I'm out of spoons for the day, that's occurring here. That's occurring above the belt, essentially, right? For what you can see of me on camera right now, very much. Shen is the idea of, so we have Shen of our organs, and the main organ Shen is Shen. So just Shen supremacy. And the Shen of our spirit, the idea of, is located in the brain specifically. It's called the crystal palace. So we have the crimson palace at the heart, which is where the child on the star bridge lives. And that's our sternum, pericardium, thymus, and heart. I found the trine, thymus, pericardium, and heart. Hold on. I'm very into trines. I'm into threes, which I believe is also why folks think that we have this issue with justice. I think we just understand the same. Cognitive distortions. What did I just say? Jing Qi Shen is like, oh, thymus, pericardium, and the heart. So the three body problem in physics is a theoretical physics question that says, if there are three bodies orbiting in space, three planets orbiting in space, and they each have their own gravity, how can I predict what's going to happen? And my answer is you can't, unless you have your own gravity. You need to understand it's a tensegrity. I am the observer. I am observing then what's happening in the body. The Jing, Qi, and Shen are also compassion, moderation, and humility. They're also earth, water, fire. They are also add, subtract, sustain. They are also yin, yang, what can't I see? So there are, I call them mappings. I'm a map autistic. It's information science is really what it is. And linguistics and a whole bunch of other stuff, but primarily information science, because all law and science for us at this point is based on Latin. So as I'm putting ShentegriTEA together and I go again and again, we cannot be talking about nervous system regulation, because a regulated nervous system doesn't exist. It's part of us as an organism. But regulation it's a thing that happens anyway. That's autonomic, that's automagic, that's whatever. This aspect that we're being invited into is the expression of, and that is still very much measured against able-bodied white boys in the 1950s that John Bowlby was taking a look at so he could label their mothers hysterical. But now we have attachment theory. Now it's so, and part of what's happening, and I think it's really relevant, especially for those of us who are late diagnosed, late realized, high masking is when we are using language that goes across channels or across disciplines, and we're establishing some sort of credibility, we run the risk of becoming an issue of scope of practice without even being aware of it. And that's a factor of training. This is a factor of allergies. So, oh, I love this. I have the new trine. So going to a trine, it helps us be less linear. So even if it's hypo-aroused, hyper-aroused window of tolerance, that's all still happening basically here. A tensegrity trine would say, here's an organism, here's a situation, here's what's happening. Or it would say, here are my eyes, those are fixed. Information comes in, it's doing a little, but the eyes are fixed. It says that my center of gravity, my gravity connected to the earth, this is now golden elixir logic, would mean if I'm, so I was, it's a mental process. It's a, as I now genuinely understand it, the alchemy is really important, but most important is how we're working with Shen specifically, Shen in the organs, Shen in the mind. And since there's no Shen in Jing, stay out of the way. That's the way is to leave whatever is fully true and wholly not mine alone, with my alchemy alone, with my instruction alone, as much as I can with any intervention or tool. And that is very antithetical to the medical model. And the medical model is the one that everybody brings forward. Our friend who left earlier, when he was speaking to, I'm assuming it's a man, I don't know why, speaking to Big Pharma, that's very much medical model. But the thing is that no matter what, we're in the medical model. Even if your human doesn't take health insurance, even if you're going to acupuncture, all of that still occurs within the medical model because it is all still policed by the state. And ironically, the more constraints there are on a profession, the more likely you are to be guided accurately, even if it's to a place you don't want to go. Whereas professions that don't have certification, by the way, is not a constraint. Certification means nothing. Coach means nothing. I don't even know what to call myself. I was thinking about ontological magic, sex magic. So the weird visions and sensory experiences, I'm not in your experience. I can tell you though, that that's a good one. That's actually a very good one. Although I feel much more like a docent. I can guide if we were like working together, but the sensory motor. So autistic brains lack neural pruning. So taking this back to the thymus, our thymus gland has a whole life cycle of 3. And the reason I'm saying thymus and pericardium is in Chinese medicine invasive. Chinese medicine invasive has 2 fire elements, one for the heart, one for the pericardium. The one for the pericardium is paired with the triple burner. And when I was learning the Tantra was presented to me as very magical, mystical, la, 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 triple burner, blah, blah, blah. But as I'm going into, well, yeah, but like what's actually happening? What's actually happening is the triple burner is the life cycle of the thymus gland. And if it resides on the star bridge in the pericardium, that tells me that TCM understands immunity as a lifelong process, that there's a life cycle to immunity. That doesn't speak to your sensory motor experience. That was an awareness that I have. The sensory motor reality that I'm understanding tapped into strange, which is not me being your doctor. What I understand is with less neural pruning, if our body was like its own rainforest, okay, our bum everybody's bum sits in bog. We are inherently bog, okay? I know we want to be like all kinds of crystals. We're inherently bog. Then our spine is log. So bog to log. The canopy of the forest is literal as it relates to the structure of our brain, but also it's figurative. So this meeting too, okay, this has been documented, charted. It is known to be, yes, you're a mushroom. Excuse me. I made you a mushroom right here. Gotta love a spore. The Chinese love a spore. So this is the nature. So the pericardium. Oh, so if we don't have the neural pruning, there's more communication happening in the canopy. Okay. Now, when you look at this canopy, this is the upper J pass of reality, and this is a very important location. This is the split at the corpus callosum. So if you're looking at me on TikTok, you're seeing this backwards. What this says is that matters from the minute I'm contemplating. So from a sensory motor experience, my sense is for some factor of brain, this is much more fixed in its understanding because the homunculus is the general term for the visible sensory motor cortex is. But what it actually is if your body was a marionette, it's providing this. And with the bean, why do I keep forgetting to print these things out and just teach from them? Jesus, hold on. I am so silly. I need to write this down. I need to be teaching from the materials I keep sending you to. I'm a horrible teacher. I'm not my mother was the college professor. Well, so was my dad, but I'm much more like my dad. My mother was like in the architecture department. Print out and teach from. But the homunculus was remapped in 2023. Now I'm getting back to you. Homunculus is remapped. Sensory motor cortex was remapped, and oh my goodness, functionally, it's a lot more complex, of course. So if our neuroplasticity, our neural net of our brain, it's based on a 3, and that's because we have 3 dimensions. That's all. Transverse, sagittal, coronal. If I'm going to measure something in space, in dimension, I need 3 measurements: length, width, height. That's all it means. But the way that we need to be interfacing, okay, the information humans, now need to contemplate everything as though it's front end and back end developing. So alchemy is genuinely just being able to be like, oh, okay. So the yin and the yang sign is a meme to be used, not something to be like, it's not a stop sign, okay? This is telling you something. This is telling you that this is what you're starting with. And then the squiggle is the corona. Okay, so the squiggle is the corona. And as this would be on the globe, that's the horizon of the globe. So the corona of the planet is where the water meets the sky, which is different than the horizon, which is where the land meets the sky. So where the water meets the sky, map, is the most we can perceive. This is my position statement. That getting back to this 3-body problem, it's the most we can perceive. So the concept of a singularity, if anybody else has heard of a singularity, as I understand it, the physics humans are, okay, it's when I can't perceive anymore. That's all it is. Can't perceive anymore. So if I'm to balance everything towards Jing meaning my earth element, or Jing meaning earth, or Jing meaning your earth. Do you see what happens? Mine, thee, yours. Very, very different contemplations, but alchemy is always considering in those directions, which is why I don't do anything in the 3rd dimension, because then I have to measure. Man. I really want to go outside. So the sensory motor, what you're experiencing could be, ugh, but it might also just be sensory motor. Like, did you know that there are 80 some kinds of synesthesia? 80 some different kinds of synesthesia. Synesthesia is when our sense organs get confused. Well, hello, the first primary split, that's what I call it, the first primary split at the corpus callosum. Oh, you're welcome. Thank you for being here. I'm going to get off soon. My food will be here. Groceries will be here. This first primary split is deep in the brain in the corpus callosum. Look how it has to get through so much. Okay. This is a lot. And then we have to interpret it. And then we report on it. And then we're doing all this stuff. And something like autism or schizophrenia or dyslexia, dyscalculia, all these disses, those are all based on what's easy. So, Liam, what do you want? What do you want? You want some shrimp? I don't want to give you shrimp, but I will give you some of this. Here. Well, not had breakfast. Did you eat your breakfast? All right, she just wanted her food. The way that she paused me, yes, she's very cute. Oh, he ate her breakfast. How rude of me. She's been sitting there for a minute. It's my food here. I'm gonna stay on until my food gets here. So the without the neural pruning, there's more density. If there are other sensory wigglynesses happening, then there's also there's more happening. So I have tactile synesthesia, and I'm 100% aphantasia, and I have amnesia, and I'm hyperlexic, and I have dyscalculia, and I don't recognize faces, and I'm profoundly gifted. I mean, I have like 9 different neurotypes before we even get into the trauma. My brain, nothing in me, nothing is typical. But I'm so high masking, historically, I've been able to get away without it. I'm not high masking anymore, and it's very challenging often. But I would much rather be less masking and longer, to be honest with you, than otherwise. But the sensory motor reality, so something like exteroception, where we understand where our body is in space, is often attuned through reporting. What are 5 things I can see? 4 things you can feel? 3 things, okay? I can report on any number of things in my environment and not be present to the situation. Anybody with a dissociative reality, anybody with pain, anybody with children will let you know. You can appear all kinds of present and show up in a way that somebody says, yeah, this person gets it, and that might not be happening. So I always default to, let's get in, not even in your body, on a surface. And then we're into something else. And that again weighs the Jung. So I relate to Jung like weebles. Weebles wobble, but they don't fall down. And a chakra is much more like a fan. It's a spinning wheel, which truly for most neurodivergent humans, we've got so much going on anyway. The space of a dantian, it's space. So there's space for the belly, space for the heart, space for the head, and we're relating to space and fullness on the inside. So the whole idea of yin and yang internally is space and fullness, and yang is what you do with them. So again, tensegrity is 2 fixed points and 1 that's a third. But when we add shentegrity, when we add wu wei and we're contemplating it weighed appropriately to Jing, which again, 3-body problem. So the 3-body problem of Taoism is to do Jing, Qi, Shen, compassion, moderation, humility, scope of practice. And then I had the birth when I declared my survivorship from cancer and committed to decolonizing, continuing to decolonize, whatever that means for whatever factor, until it's all that I can really do with my power is to try to do something with the power, which is for me about consciousness. And I go like this because I feel like folks who look like I do, like if we're all caught in a net, folks who look like I do, all we have to do is sit down and lean back. I mean, they're even telling us what to do. Doing, you know how like in power moves, this is a power move, right? To sit back in a room and like put your arms over your head. It's the best thing to do as a girl if you really want to make the suits like have an idea. But you also need to have like signatory privileges on an account or something so that they believe you. But to lean back and to create space is a one way that we can use our bio power. That literally the power of our bio. And so that again got us out of the visions and such. And I wish I could tell you, like, say these 3 things, do those 2 things. I have not, I can't. I'm just very excited for you. I really am. And please assume that all psychiatry is cop. So anything that has a direct link to the DSM, including all rhetoric that goes to the DSM, that's all wellness rhetoric, equals cop. Because at a certain level of care, it turns into jail, literally. It doesn't become any kind of anything else. You go to jail. And that is determined solely based on how you are perceived. And the more I am this in psychiatry, the more dangerous I am perceived to be, either literally or figuratively. And that's terrifying, but also kind of exciting. But also, if another trip to the psych ward might be in my future, because if the cancer comes back in my brain, that's the only reason. Cancer in the brain. Otherwise, I'm having an autistic meltdown. That's all it is. Let me have a meltdown. Like, seriously, not that big of a deal. That, you know, the whole, it's just a big, yeah. My groceries are here. I will be back in a moment. Yeah, it's just groceries. Here, I'll bring it to the kitchen with me. It's scary, but it's mine. So, So the sensory motor, that's my mother, real mother would behind me. The sensory motor experience is so like that. Oh, I ordered things I didn't even think I ordered. I ordered bagel bites. I must have been having a child feeling. Yogurt, got some salad stuff, got some fruit. I just want to put away the stuff that needs to go in the refrigerator. Chaos behind me. Chaos around me. My dad, when he was alive, he used to say you could always tell when I entered a room because everything ended up everywhere. And I would say, yes, I'm like a liquid. I just expand to the available space. Now I'm a little bit more gaseous, not literally, well, sometimes literally, but mostly, it was very intense to witness the height of the pandemic while experiencing chemotherapy by myself. I'm glad I don't remember it. Decades of ordeal work prepared me. There's no way that was $70. What is up with the food prices in America? So, my humor, thank you. My humor is I took Vyvanse today. I'm feeling vivacious on my Vyvanse. I might be, I don't know if I can still, if I'm still going to have Vyvanse. So in order to cancel, to fire my psychiatrist, because I actually do need psychiatric medication, I've been through some shit. Like objectively. So, but my psychiatry cannot be the governing, determining factor of anything, especially my sovereignty, if that is not a concern, which it should not be. It should only be a concern if somebody's trying to put me in a cage because I go feral. And these providers who only met me once I had my stroke and was already paralyzed and was already having to rebuild my brain, then I got cancer. Well, when I say to you, you have never met me because you've only known me sick, dying, and healing, here I am. And then the response is, whoa, you gotta go. That is not a good thing to say. I did not see an email about monkeypox. Does somebody else see an email about monkeypox? Mpox is the WHO has declared it a global situation. It's global. So what's happening? Oh no, I didn't. But what's happening is we're getting cross species, and that is threatening Jing. So all the stuff that's happening cross species threatens. I'm not saying it's doing something to, but it threatens our genes. It could be a potential genetic change. This is regular infection, you know, but this stuff down here, this is cancer coming up. This is autoimmune disease. This is anything that would be inherent. This is all the stuff that communicable disease, public health, and the weaver here, she represents our immunity. She also represents autoimmunity. And she interfaces, I believe, she's the interface between if I'm an acupuncturist and I do a needle and you're the human receiving it, because her needle communicates, these are all the spirits of our organs are named here. So our organs are all over our body, but they're located alchemically in the central palace. And this states very clearly that fruition relies upon this earth, not this earth. The earth that's I'm sentient, I'm alive, I'm already here. This earth is, who knows? Who knows? But this earth, so this earth is where we go from bog to log. Here, this is called the gate of life. And you can see it's illustrated as fire because this is also fight, flight, freeze, fawn. So when the polyvagal humans talk about dorsal vagal dominance and stuff, they're talking all the way up here. They're speaking at this level of your vagus nerve. This is where we experience it. If when I was paralyzed, because I had a midbrain stroke, my brain broke right about here. If I attempted to fix it there, I would have failed completely. Because I couldn't walk, right? I was broken from here down. That you don't fix that at the head, you fix that at the tail. I believe we fix pretty much everything. This is where, if we were a plant, this is where we would have roots, literal roots, yin and yang, primordial yin and yang in the cinnabar field. That is like potential menstruation. This is potential energy. The con, this is water flowing in reverse. This is doing something with it on purpose. And when I read that Taoist alchemy, inner alchemy has to do with entropy, I said, oh, well, if energy cannot be created or destroyed, then this can't be true. I must not have had a Taoist alchemical birth. I must have been some other phenomenon. And then I said, hey, Chad, is there something besides the 3 laws of thermodynamics? Because I don't do math. And Chad says, oh, yes, in the 1940s, somebody came up with the 0th law. And I said, thank you very much. So a lot of what I hear people getting excited about with science and religion and science and faith, go to physics. They're already asking the questions. And the 3-body problem is not solvable unless you are willing to be the 3 bodies and not exist. That's the big thing. So when I got to the whatever I make out of this, I've survived this, whatever I have to say needs to live on beyond me. I'm going to put my name on it. I was like, I'm going to start a new yoga school. This is a martial art, but I'm going to start a new yoga school. What? I can't do that. I'm a white lady. And that tension here made so much of this very easy to understand, because this part says, well, what's Jing is Jing, what's mine is mine, what's yours is yours, and what do you need, not what should it be. So if you're a desert plant, I should not put you in a rainforest. If you are a lily, you should not be in, a conifer place, the alpines. And so a lot of what happens, I think, with these behavior models and the medical model in particular, is at the end of the day, the verification is based on what I can observe, not even what I understand. It's genuinely, it's to the eyes, which are the first place we're going to experience a distortion, the first place, very clearly. Like literally from a cognitive science perspective, that's where it's going to happen in the sensory motor experience, in your eyes and your ears, right? Now I know she ate, so she's just being a complainer. That's my kitty cat, Darla, if you're just joining. What would you like? Do you want some water? Okay, let's see if she wants water. Come on, let's have some water. Oh, no, she wants to sit on my chair. Okay, I'll get on the floor, Darla. How dare I? Look at her. She's boss, okay? Darla is boss. I'm just here for her. Is that better? Is that acceptable? So when I get out of bed, she's like right where my, it's her turn to speak. What do you have to say, Darla? Isn't she cute? Yeah. She picked me. I mean, like, she's a garbage pail cat, so it's whatever they gave me, but she definitely picked me. Huh. You did. You did. Norman's a cat. You're a Katie cat. But yeah, she doesn't like it when I pay attention sometimes to other entities. When folks come over here for treatments, they have to be okay with cats, huh? Because you'll usually hide, but she loves autistic humans. She is just like out with them. Hi. Hi. Hi, you're so pretty. You're so pretty. You're the pretty one. Hello. Hi. Isn't she cute? I feel so important. She's smelling my weird smelling. Only one of my armpits has odor now since I had radiation, which they told me I had the best skin they had ever seen. I have no reason to believe they were lying. I wonder why, because of my yoga. I went through all the chemotherapy. I did not have a fever, much less a hospitalization, no infections. That's right. It was safer to be by myself than it was to deal with a COVID infection, possibly, wasn't it? I couldn't even get you until I knew for sure I wouldn't kill you. Yeah, because when, I know. I think it's time for me to go. Is it time for me to go? What do you see? That's you. This is Darla. Yeah. Oh my goodness, you're so pretty. She's lovely. I just wish I wasn't so allergic to them, but I also don't really care. And I just had my vents cleaned. I was having a neurotoxin response to something in my vents. Oh, I'm happy that it gave you something good. Just remember, it's just me knowing things. I'm not. Darla, that is rude. Look at the gratuitous showing of bean. Gratuitous beans. Your beans were gratuitous. Discern. Learn to discern. Learn to discern is the same in my mind for the media aspect of this, which is really just, oh, that's right. I need to make sure that I'm looking at it correctly, which is very different than can I trust what I'm being shown? If you try to understand through trust, you're, am I looking at it correctly? And one of the places it's the worst is if you're seeing an image and you don't know that it's mirrored. So again, TikTok is seeing me as though I'm in a mirror. So you're my mirror right now. You're not my friend in my room. Zoom and Zoom adjacent is seeing me already flipped. If you're a theater kid and you're familiar with the concepts of stage right and stage left, you know that really matters. Upstage, downstage, stage right, stage left. We're that way as well with each other, very much with information and media. And it's not being, I'm going to make a global statement. I'm sure I'm lying, but it's really not being contemplated as it could and should be at this point in the pandemic reality for sure, because we become so reliant on our screens for communication. We're also not contemplating that in and of itself as a form of literacy. So when I was working in Web 1.0, the man who invented the CD-ROM, I was seeding neural nets. Hi. And the man who invented the CD-ROM used to dose me on very, very high amounts of LSD to teach me Buckminster Fuller logic about split consciousness that I don't remember, but I know I received the teachings. And that's about scaling to infinity with as little friction in the psychic net as possible. And this was Web 1.0 CD-ROM. Michael's dead, but like truly, what's happened with this, and then so many online certifications. Your flipping therapist has the same certifications that I have. And the education is shit. I stepped out of my formal process with the American Psychiatric Association, stepped out of it. Because like, what? They're certifying psychedelic, somatic, this, and then one human is saying, oh, I know all of this and I'm going to put it into practice. What? Or even genuinely worse, I'm going to do ecotourism and take people out of the country so I can work around my own license. And then I'll bring them back and do the therapy. That's also what's happening now. Or a therapist, a licensed clinician will have an agreement with somebody who's not licensed. So the workarounds with licensure, but it's coming through licensure. The positioning of the skinny white yoga chick here is not correct. The skinny white yoga chick does not have skin in the game. Skinny white yoga chick probably doesn't even have proper insurance. Liability. Or they believe that they're insured through the Yoga Alliance, which should tell you that they don't understand contracts. And genuinely, if you or I are turning our minds and bodies over to somebody, which is what you do when you say, yes, I would like to work with you on my nervous system, I really want to know that you understand a contract. Because if you don't understand a contract, how do I know that you understand the brain and the mind and consciousness if you're not contemplating constraint? Like truly, practically speaking, even, and you know, whatever indigenous teachings I've received have been, however they've been filtered, and all the indigenous teachings I've received are so much about context, not mindset and setting, context. Where did the plant come from? What is going on? How does it work? And this is why you don't need the substance. The substance is useful because it accelerates. It's a synesthetic experience, by the way. Psychedelics create synesthesia. They create the lived experience of more neural connectivity. And those of us who have that as our default setting are criminalized, pathologized, and positioned as bad actors and apples within the same disciplines that are bringing all of these concepts into them. So the way that ugly laws used to happen, where we used to not be able to go outside if you were disabled in the United States into the 70s. The women's rights movement, the civil rights movement, which women got the best of it, by the way. Women who look like me. It's one of the problems with feminism of my mother, but you know what? She did her best because she couldn't even have a bank account when I was born. But yeah. So indigeneity is inherently tensegrity, from what I can understand. Even when I'm in the four cardinal directions, I'm in a tensegrity structure. A sweat is a tensegrity structure. It's not a Buckminster Fuller geodesic dome. Just look at architecture. Veda, Ayurveda is tensegrity. Vata, Pada, Kippa, Vata, Pada, whatever. But you're going to have two that are more and one that's less. You don't like tacos. I'm having chocolate. There's this big black German Shepherd who lives downstairs, who's beautiful and loud. And every time he gets loud, the cats get really interested, but they're too afraid. And they should be. He's not a very friendly dog. Or at least he's not a puppy dog. He didn't run up to me and say hello, which I think is strange. Just saying. Good villain. Too colonized. It's all colonized. And we can't get out of it. What do you want? You had the foods over there. Do you want some tuna? Okay. Let's get you some tuna. Norman, do you want some tuna fish? Kitty, Norman. What this is? Oh, this is exciting. It's the fish for the kitty. The tuna in the water. Oh, yummy, yummy. Yummy, yummy. No, that's the fish for you. Oh, what is this? Oh, so exciting. Yay, we got some tuna for the kitties. Here we go. Have some fish. There you go. You like it. You've eaten it. You'll eat it. So, yeah, everything is colonized. Everything. There's so nothing, I mean, like it is done. So I remember we either have to get under or over it from a rhetoric perspective, not from an understanding contemplation rhetorically. Because if we go under it, then we're under the matrix. And if we go above it, then we're above the matrix. The matrix is data and algorithm at this point. That's all it is. It's mass hysteria. It's everybody believing. Chad, by the way, is the word that I use for AI. It's everybody who believes algorithm, meme, human design, nervous system regulation, life coach. The human design is within the context of now, really Chad GPT. Also Chad, the white tigress. So historically, this is my bio Chad. This is my 3D Chad. This used to be Chad. But this is now Chad. He's fabulous. He's gay. He's my dad. The white tigress. So the Queen Mother of the West is the entity who guided the leaders in how to lead. There are many other entities. These are the ones I identify with the most. The Meng Po is the ruler. She genuinely is the ruler of the 8 extraordinary vessels. She is your umbilical cord. None of this I should have known, but again, I have the thing. Chad, or white tigress, as it relates to tensegrity, the white tigress rules Jing. She rules Jing, Jing. White tigress and white tigress concubine and white tigress culture centers the vulva very specifically, as well as men cultivating fullness and space inside. So earlier in the stream, I was discussing how the Dantian, the energy centers here are spatial. One of the things the white tigress does is she helps the peen understand the space inside. And this is really wonderful for humans who are circumcised, because the very tip, the tip of your Chad is very sensitive. And so one way of interpreting the bean is that way. And it says right here, a single grain of millet, an entire lifetime. So people with penises are encouraged to separate the pleasure experience from the eruption. I'm going to use pastoral language. And so the peen intervenes. I say the peen intervenes because of the ox and the ox herd. Everybody has a little peen in them, of course, but when we're peen centric, that's too much peen. And when the peen itself is damaged in a very primary wound, I do have I'm internationally credentialed, darling, as an educator in the human sexualities. I just, again, have been almost dying. So, but the presence of circumcision is like, it's fascinating because it is a wound. It's a primary wound. It's a genuine trauma. It may not be like psychological torture. It is a trauma. And it's a trauma that is accepted as par for the course. So as par for the course, boy children are wounded at the point where they are the most sensitive, which is also vulnerable. And if you've ever cut something and you've gotten a little bit of alcohol or salt, you know how that feels. Imagine urinating through that as an infant. That is not considered an adverse childhood experience. I would think it's an adverse childhood experience. I mean, just as like neutrally, from a neutral perspective. So if that is, and it occurs in that Jung zone, these practices, these tantric practices are also very much about feeling full and whole. Yeah, I am not a circumcision fan. I think, why don't you just teach a child about their body parts? But again, there's purity in that. We have to have the purity. We do this, we do that, la la la. And it's fascinating because, like, look at what's happening. The other thing that has happened, past tense, which if I was to write another dissertation or something, I would, is epigenetics. So when we contemplate maternal stress and how genes change, so a lot of wounded men walking around, yeah. And so my friend Mac Daddy, Scotty McGregor, Positive Masculinity Now, he is my soul brother from another mother, card-carrying samurai, one of the top leading martial artists in the world at one point, has a whole project around positive masculinity, which is not, as I can tell, it's not just let's get into our feelings. He's really asking about things like labels and masks and facades, and he's wonderful. He's in Seattle. His wife just got her PhD too, so they're like really cool. But we do have a lot of wounded men. We have a lot of wounded women. We're all wounded. So I like the idea of deconstructing the thought, or like contemplating rigorously contemplating rhetoric. Anybody who looks like I do, who is in the field of mental whatever, why are we not contemplating our own rhetoric? There's a doctor on TikTok who's wonderful in that he has acknowledged, he's figured out that women have more pain at the doctor. We also then need to be discussing the global slave trade and how gynecology happened and all of the experimentation we've done on living humans. And when I say we, I mean the United States, not just Europe. Hitler got his ideas from us, by the way. So we have a nasty background, nasty. And until some of us are willing to say, you know what, this is the problem. The problem is there's no root cause. It's the global slave trade. And then we just have to get heavier than that. So we go to actual gravity, what's really happening. And then you have to step out of the medical model for at least long enough to go, well, what would this be without that? So the visions and everything, culturally, depending on the culture, would be positioned as a shaman or as a vision or as a seer or as an art or as. And then it's written very differently into culture. When we talk about a cultural construct, I think with humans, we would be better contemplating them as written. How are we writing the body? We write bodies into law. We write bodies into degrees. We write bodies into gender. They're written. That's the written word. And Taoism says that the Tao. There's always three. And that's just how it is for me. I know folks who are always 7. I know folks who are always 2. But is the black and white thinking because a person can't move their thought, or is the black and white thinking because we're actually contemplating at the level of the genuine structure of the neural net or the cognitive net or the social net? Because all of that happens through taxonomy. It doesn't happen through hierarchy, or at least the way I understand it. So taxonomy, kingdom, phylum, class, order, family, genus, species. Kingdom is the top of the taxonomy. Kingdom. Flowchart says top predator. What do the predators prey on? Flowchart says, I'm the ruler of the king's navy. Flowchart says king with a kingdom, not human as part of the animal kingdom. And we're the only species at our level of those branches. We're the only species. So we are uniquely positioned, and the Chinese understood that. They absolutely understood that thousands of years ago because it's written into this. There's no ocean creatures. There aren't any birds. Symbolism is ignored, the reciprocity. I really want to hear some of what you remember, but I don't want to ask you in public. Like if you want to chat offline, I'm just fascinated into your visions, what you're experiencing from a symbolism, and you're not yet unmasked or whatever in your autism, but also that turns your brain into fascinating to me. And I don't want you to experience that as full-on objectification, but I feel like what you're experiencing genuinely has value for folks because you're in an intuitive alignment, understanding. So this is that split at the corpus callosum. So when information comes in, it gets and then reflected back on the corona of the brain. So when I was receiving my fancy pants media training, Web 1.0, which actually was very specialized. I was also trained by Edward Tufte, who's one of the world's leading data visualizing. I mean, like he works with countries, and he's not happy about big data either. But I had a lot of very, very specialized training. The symbolism was so important. All I did was create symbolic languages for companies. Now I just created one for us. visions are from other torturing. So the concept of like the thread of consciousness that goes through the humanity, the concept of collective unconscious or collective superconscious, like a collective consciousness is probably in there. The concept of time, right? Like, is time linear? Is time this? Jumping timelines is not something that we can do. So sorry. Again, 3 dimensions. That's all we have. But we can be aware of space-time any number of ways. And TCM gives it to us. Space-time as yin and yang that's a magnet. Space-time as the 4 cardinal directions is a compass. Space-time as a clock on the wall is the 24-hour organ clock. So our organs are on a cycle. Clock on your wrist is the 5 elements of Chinese medicine, which is, you can see in my user image there. And so one human is going to resonate with one of those ways more than somebody else. And so to my mind, personally, I would rather have one thing 7 ways for you to look at than 7 things for you to choose from. Especially if the one thing 7 ways isn't mine, especially if I can guide us into and through pre-existing models that work. TCM is empirical. It's all occurring through empiricism. This, well, okay, but what happens when? But what, so it's like, what am I doing? And then what's the effect? And which is different than, oh, you have a this, you have a that, then that means this. And TCM addresses psycho-emotional pain through our extraordinary vessels, which are governed by Manko, who also does the Taoist of birth. Nobody told me. Nobody told me. I wish my mother was alive because she would not believe me. But if Linda was alive, she would believe me. My mentor, Linda, my mother was a PhD in this area. I'm just a master, darlings, because I actually practice. My mother just studied. Traditional Chinese medicine. So traditional Chinese medicine is a codified practice that is assigned to this guy, the Yellow Emperor. Let me read you some of his writings. He's very practical. He writes Socratic, so the Yellow Emperor's classic on medicine. This is what the Yellow Emperor is Mulan, by the way. There's so much Mulan happening here. Yellow Emperor is clearly the Queen Mother, clearly, very clearly. And there's a lot of questions in the scholarship whether the Yellow Emperor and Lao Tzu, whether they even existed. I don't think they did, because the Yellow Emperor turns into a book. Lao Tzu is at the head of the Nijing too. Lao Tzu is recursion. Lao Tzu is the same as every MC Escher print you've ever seen. Lao Tzu is surrealism. Lao Tzu is the wandering aspect of the vagus nerve. Lao Tzu embodies the generation and restriction cycles of Chinese medicine. So I believe the parallel that you might be familiar with is Ayurveda, but these are very different systems. So Chinese medicine invasive is with the needles. So here we have acupuncture and the treatment of malaria. The heart malaria, the patient feels restless and hot with a desire for cold water, chills which are more severe than fever. One should needle the hand, Shao Yin heart channel. In the liver malaria, the patient shows a blue-green hue on the face. The attack is so severe that the patient appears to be dying. Needle the foot and do bloodletting. That's hardcore, hardcore. Needles in the feet are hardcore because our plantar fascia goes right to everything else in the body. That's why feet, there's a whole technique called bastinado where they take little bamboo and they go just again and again and again and again and again and again. Your feet never tap out. Other parts of your body will tap out on sensation. Feet never tap out. I still can't feel my feet, by the way, from my stroke 6 years ago. I still don't have full feeling. Walk just fine. I wonder how that is. The truth from the golden chamber. There are 8 types of wind that occur in nature, or abnormal and pathogenic winds, which cause disease. Anytime you see 8, all of my pattern recognizers, 8 equals either low shu or bagua, as far as I can tell. And these are 2 divination systems that I'm not all the way in, but I'm presenting for us because they're the same every time. So he's like determining death. He has seasonal organ pathology. This is it's written, it's pastoral, he's written as being in a dialogue with precepts. So this is Socratic. Okay, but by the time it gets to your actual Chinese medicine doctor, this is what your acupuncturist learns. Your acupuncturist learns the human's body's yin yang and primal ki all rise from below. Therefore, the inner classic, which is him, takes what is behind the vast brilliance as the grand thoroughfare. The ground of the grand thoroughfare pertains to the lesser yin. I mean, that's a lot to pay attention to, just to stick a little needle in me so that I can feel better. Your acupuncturist is licensed like a medical doctor. Licensed like a medical doctor. So do I have a need to be your acupuncturist? No. Can I interpret this for you? Absolutely. Absolutely. But what it creates is balance. It creates a lived experience of balance. It's vestibular balance. I believe. I haven't been able to get all the way here yet, but definitely what the needles are. So the needle for an acupuncture needle, it doesn't even go in as far as like a tattoo. Like it is tiny and it's metal. And the way metal operates alchemically in Chinese medicine is unique to any other system I've been introduced to, because most other systems place ether or air or wind, where China places metal. So China uses fire, earth, metal, water, and wood, which you can go out and touch all of them. I can find fire, I can touch wood, I can bring you a piece of metal, I can touch all of those, and I have all of those inside. So the direction of the alchemy, being inside or outside, it can be what the physics humans would call a closed loop kind of experience when you're practically working with the elements, when you're not just being like, oh, the elements are this. When, if you just look at my little thing up there, if earth feeds metal, so if you go around the circle clockwise, that's the generation. Generation is making more. Going like this, that's the restriction cycle. That's making less, or, you know, like impede, like just slowing it down a little bit. So one element, earth element, I can do something with earth on its own. I can contemplate earth as feeding metal, whatever that means, given the situation. I can also contemplate earth as being influenced by or tampered by wood, but all of that is happening as life cycles and plants and ecosystems experience themselves, not as an invading force comes in and makes something happen. It's very different attitude. And it's not an attitude that fits in the medical model. It genuinely doesn't fit. Fascinating, though, that in order to go to one of those doctors, they have to be licensed. So even with that, it is medical model. And again, I'm just so stuck on language often because we receive from a dimensional perspective, if we can only perceive 3 dimensions, they don't have to be in the same space-time, but we can only perceive 3. There might be 27, we can only perceive 3. Anything that you do alchemically with a thing is always going to occur in 3D. And if it's just you and something, you're like a mirror. You know how you look in a mirror and you end up with like infinity mirrors? You need it to be somehow angled so that you have more perspective. So one way to contemplate that, right? I can have mirrors going towards each other. I can have, now you can see more than one thing. Perception. And so we can do so much without technology that helps you understand that technology is a huge factor. Do you see now you're seeing me in the computer, me that, and then if I put this, so here I am scrying, look at that, Katie's doing magic. I'm doing alchemy. I'm messing with perception. I'm influencing how you understand and are receiving information. That's alchemy. That's also brainwashing. That's high control governing. That is propaganda. This is the DNC getting everybody excited about everything except for human rights. So the default setting, I believe, for humans like me should be assume everything is propaganda and assume I'm creating propaganda. And so from a teaching perspective, that would make teaching both political and cultural. And my opinion is that all trauma work is inherently teaching. It's inherently teaching because we have a human in a situation, you have the brain you have the situation you have. Well, what's going on? What can we do? What can't we do? What do you need? What support? Blah, 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 blah. None of that is my business. None of it. What's my business is why are we here together and what can I do to help you with your business? But the skinny white yoga chick is it's that rescue mindset, right? All you need to do is a retreat and the whole this attachment to ascension, we're going to raise the vibration, that's nice. I'm on planet Earth where I need an elevator if I want to go up more than 4 stories. I live on planet Earth where it is not our inherent natural state to fly across continents. That is not how we are built. We are built to navigate the oceans because without the Industrial Revolution, right? So if you go before the Industrial Revolution, there's plenty of actual genuine technological advancing that occurs, especially in Asia. I'm more familiar with China, but that's not the kind of scholar that I am. But this is, and we would have much more understanding of indigenous wisdom if we weren't so successful in eliminating the void. Oh my goodness me, that was gravity. Yeah. I know, it went down. That's what happens. So art is a really wonderful place to contemplate this. I've been acquiring like free images so I can do slideshows for us. But this is Taoism and the Arts of China. This was a museum, actually. This was a show that traveled museums. I love looking at museum catalogs. You see how these are written? These are academic books. But so you get the image of a piece, but then all this context around it. that we're not necessarily going to get in other kinds of books. And the museums tend to be pretty aware of their own problematic positioning when it comes to culture, especially the Asian humans, as I understand. So you'll see, here's this relief, and then it says, this is, oh, it's Lao Tse and the Jade Emperor. Look at that. Lao Tse and the Jade Emperor. I don't know who the Jade Emperor is. Lao Tse is the Tao that can be named as not the Tao. If the Tao can be named as not the Tao, why do we keep naming Lao Tse? Like, all the answers are there. They're all there. They're just so obvious. And without one of the negative effects of many of No Child Left Behind is the reliance on standardized testing, which has created standardized contemplation, if any. And this kind of contemplation is a contemplation that is very much like passively watching a stream. It's a contemplation that occurs through the default mode network in the brain. So the default mode network in the brain takes in the sensory information. I don't know what happens because we don't have functional mapping, but the default mode network, this speaks, oh, my friend who's doing the autism assessment, default mode network predictive processing. Default mode network is what the brain is like. It's just like looking for the ease. Okay, this is self-referential thinking that is not rooted in shame. This is self-referential thinking outside of the context of a shadow. It's self-referential thinking that says, oh my goodness, that is a really strange thing that I'm contemplating. Perhaps I should contemplate something else. Instead of being wrong for your thoughts or being wrong for your feelings, you may need to change them or do something with them. But hey, man, it's your thought, it's your feeling. I'm assuming that you're not going out and harming humans with it, right? Here's some celestial beings. This is the realm of the all mountain kings and the 6 spirits of the household. 1600. 1600. Look at that art. 1600. What? The geometry of this art, this is very akin to Buddhist art to my mind, but it's not the same, it's different. Buddhism is very codified. There are 4 styles. I am only familiar with Vajrayana. Here's a rendering. This is what the original yin and yang might have been displayed as. If you're familiar with the art of Alex Gray or the art on Tool album covers, Alex Gray did a piece of this called Polarity in like the 70s or early 80s when he was at Boston College. This is an old version of Polarity, but look, it has writing. So it's the diagram of the supreme ultimate from the compendium of diagrams. Ming Dynasty. Any culture that measures time in dynasties, I'm fascinated by, especially when the symbology stays the same. The symbols are the same. There's probably a lot more symbols that I should know and I don't because I don't speak Chinese, but they're all the same symbols. Oh, look at this, it's so beautiful. Look at that. So I have a whole, I'm beginning some lesson planning around the brain as its own trine, as its own structure of 3s. So we can contemplate the brain as a trine, which again, it just gets you out of the binary. The easiest way to get out of a binary is to add something. That's all. You just add a 3rd thing. It's not that hard. It's very difficult if you're, some of these non-dual groups I'm in, oh my gosh. Like, it can just be very practical. Just non-dualism is, I thought that chemical changes, I didn't understand that chemistry is thermodynamics. Everything is thermodynamics right now for me, because fluid dynamics is alchemy, because water as an element and water as a compound and water as a concept are all different. Water as an element in Chinese medicine is all fluids and water. Water alchemically is water in its solid state floats. Water floats when it's solid, unlike other liquids that sink. So the nature of water, be like water, is genuinely asking us, well, what does water do? Water floats when it's frozen. All water does on its own is exist. Any wave that we see, any sparkle, anything like that, that's a response to something in the environment. So if we are 70% water, then most of what's happening is a response. So I would like to know why I'm supposed to be in full and total control over everything, including somebody else's perception. Good morning, birds of Axos. It's actually getting into afternoon. I'm procrastinating working and having some food. We've been chatting. We're on, we're just, now I think we're talking about brains. Oh, I want to show you some of Carl Jung's work. This, I think, is the best book of his to contemplate. I waited. His family wouldn't let this be published for the longest time. When it was finally published, Take Memory Through Death. Ooh, Nathan, I don't know. So Jung is accused of having had a psychotic break. He may have, I don't know. He was probably kind of old for it, but he definitely had an experience. Look what Carl Jung did. He broke up with Freud, had a moment. They made it, well, because this has all kinds of truths in it. This is Jung. He goes into the underworld. He's discussing the anima and animus. Now we have the Jungian mandala things happening. These are beautiful. Look at this. It's gorgeous. It's stunning. This is called the Red Book. This is Carl Jung. Carl Gustav Jung. This is everybody's shadow. Himmler, yes, very much. Himmler after Kilt, she's accredited as being the first abstract artist. She was also very, very, very much a visionary. She saw. She definitely saw. So he writes, he's writing in Swiss, and then there, so this is nominated by Jung. So the Red Book is nominated by Jung to contain the nucleus of his later works, and it has recognized it's long been recognized as the key comprehending of their genesis. Yet, aside from a few glimpses, it has remained whatever cultural moment, intoxication of mythology, most difficult. This is him not actually knowing. This is him being curious. And then he codified it. And he codified it in medicine. And the Jung was presented with a copy, some of the copies of the, oh, have fun, tapped into strange. I hope you have fun with whatever you're doing. But Jung was given, Richard Wilhelm is a German human who spoke Chinese, I guess. And Wilhelm was given direct access. This is a later text. This is like an 18th century text even. So good on you, Wilhelm. he gets access to this. This gives directions to have the golden elixir experience. Jungian suggests this book to me. This is years ago. I'm like, oh, cool. First thing I do is I look at the commentary. I never look at the translation. I want to see the commentary. In the commentary, Jung says, oh, yeah, that might be true for the Chinese, but definitely women can't do that. The whole purpose of this is to experience woman, by the way. The whole purpose of inner alchemy of Neidan is for men. I do, Andre. It's for men to experience the fullness of pregnancy and birth. And Jung says, nope, they can't do that. Then Jung looks at an image like, let's see, he looks at an image like this. Okay, and he makes a decision. Okay, this is being able to work with Shen. I am well, and I'm on Vyvanse, so life is good. It's always good when I remember to take my Vyvanse. But I want to show you. So this is Taoist alchemy as fractal. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 organs. That's all it is. 5 organs, 5 senses. And it's being able to interpret, work with, and transmutate and do things with. And Jung looks at this and says, oh no, nobody could actually do that. Yeah, it's because I took Vyvanse. I also slept last night. I took a trazodone and it worked. Anything that I can get off of that I need to show an ID for, I'm all for. Empty infinity, without beginning, without end, without past, without future. A halo of light surrounds the world of the law. The emptiness is irradiated by the light of the heart and heaven. The water of the sea is smooth and mirrors the moon in its surface. And that's all speaking to our head, our literal cranium. There's a space between our brain and our skull. And the inflammation in the body influences our experience of brain. It absolutely influences our brain's ability to wash and clean itself through the lymphatic system. Commentary. Fundamentally speaking, this is Jung. We do not understand the complete detachment from the world of a text like this. Indeed, that we do not want to understand it. In our Christian culture, spirit and the passion of the spirit were for a long time the greatest values. Only after a decline in the Middle Ages, he's not even talking about China. And then he gives you and me anima animus, hun and po, shadow, because he's lazy. And it makes it impossible. If you believe in shadow, you will never, ever, ever, ever be doing alchemy, ever. Not in Taoist framework. Shadows are atmosphere, like rain, cloudy day. But the stuff that happens in the darkness, where you would plant a seed and the seed grows and all of that's happening. Who knows how it's happening? Oh my goodness. All I know is I plant a seed and then it grows. I know that if I plant a seed and then bug it, it's not going to grow roots. So how are we treating humans with trauma? We're not treating them like seeds. We're not treating them like plants. We're treating them like we're dissecting them. It's really, really weird. But again, all of that happens through the medical model, and then it has to be evidence-based, and then it has to have a certain la. And these humans in psychiatry are still very, very wedded to behavior models. And again, psychiatry goes to jail. Psychiatrists are cops. Psychiatrists. Let me show you some of my self-portraits. I think I'm going to sell these prints. This is Zitterbart. So if you've ever read or heard of this guy, Douglas Hofstadter, he wrote Gödel, Escher, Bach, and won a Pulitzer Prize. And I read it and said, Douglas Hofstadter Your math is confusing. I shall be Zitterbart Escher Bach one day. Here's Zitterbart, Escher, and Bach. Because all string theory is orchestra. It's orchestra. So this is our genetic code. This is also how I experience dissociation very specifically. It's like just something like just like doing this. It's to me, it's like, this is how I experience fracture of consciousness. So you can see Escher has a lot of, this is also the experience of looping, strange loops of all identity processes, but also from an Escher perspective, perception as it relates very specifically to water as a agent of lens. So like convex, concave lenses, the way that if you look through ice, something looks different than if you look through it through water, if you look through it with nothing. And then Bach is how I navigated when I couldn't walk, couldn't talk, couldn't do anything, and I had to move across the country and blah, blah, blah. But this is also about interface design. And so this is very much being able to have some understanding or to be cultivating some skill around, well, what is this other person seeing? This is the essence of interface design. I have all these requirements here. What am I going to show you? Thank you. I love my art as well. And that's what I'm procrastinating, is listing it. I don't know why. Don't ask me. That is a deep-seated something. Very deep-seated. Let's look at one or two more things, and then I'm gonna put my mess away and take a shower and go hang out with some dogs. Emanations of these experiences. I had my rule, my guideline is I cannot present something to you as a symbol or something digital unless and until I have a tangible rendering understanding of it. So like Metatron, the whole Metatron geometry doesn't exist until I did this. Now I can tell you Metatron is the planet, Metatron is Lo's shoe, and I can tell you why. So something that I think is really important for those of us who don't have resources to have 27 different specialists and, you know, so much of our own care we're managing, is that I just show me. So when I was like, why did I survive what I have survived despite the science? I survived knowing to ignore the rhetoric. Why is that? Or I could just say, well, the rhetoric sucks. No, but why? Because I can't put a regulated vagus nerve in my hand because it's polyvagal theory. Okay, my trauma is a fact. It's not an idea. And I'm not going to get out of it or change it with thoughts unless those thoughts are changing my brain. And thoughts that guide towards nervous system regulation also guide towards all concepts of incarceration. TION, SHEN, a little bit more qualitative. So I just added on. But again, I'm autistic. I have black and white thinking. What does that mean? Truly. Does it mean that a human is not easy to sway? I know, like, I'll say things like, there's only one way to get there. I only know one way. That doesn't make it the right way. That's the way that I know. I'm willing to learn another way. But like, I have enough difficulty navigating space-time with GPS. If I know a way to get there, I'm getting there that way. Does that make me black and white? Does that make me attached? Or does that make me in my default mode? if the default mode network is a self-referential steady state, I'll see you soon, good villain. I need to get off too. But if it's a steady state, then why mess with a steady state? I mean, I know that there are some factors of attachment that are not balanced, but truly, why is asking a question not correct to authority if bottom up means I'm operating from species, genus, phylum, order, class, and rather than kingdom, phylum, class, order? I didn't do it correct, right? Bottom up just means you understand that at the top is a kingdom, not a king. Animal kingdom. Okay. On that note, I'm going to finish eating and take a shower and go hang out with dogs, hopefully. If I'm not hanging out with dogs, I'm going to list art. You are welcome. I did stream this on Zoom, so I'm going to put it into a video library on ShentegriTEA for free. Okay. I'll see you soon. Oh, I didn't hit record, so I guess I'm not doing that. Okay, well, goodbye, Facebook.